Somebody finally did it. Somebody got off his fat butt and gave us a new introduction, and we're getting started on that. So, maybe instead of just sitting around all day not doing anything, he actually did something. So, welcome to Footprints Forward, where we want to make sure that we put out everybody learns healing in a different way. We want to make sure that we're trying to show as much healing for as many people as we can in as many different ways. And we've got a very, very special show today because we've got Tyreek with us. Tyreek was our second guest on Footprints Forward. And he's also Stephanie and I's guest this month for our wine show. So Tyreek, you've just become a huge part of the program all of a sudden. It's like you started out as somebody who got to tell a little bit about your story. Now you're a damn superstar in our eyes. So
I appreciate it.
But hey, Tyreek, you know what? You made this introduction, and so could you please introduce Michael and give us a little bit of background on your guys' story?
Sure. Mr. Michael Denton over here, him and I met back in 2009, 2010 on deployment. Been friends ever since. It's been a long, long journey, but to say the least, we still have a long, long way to go. So he's a very good guy. He's always kept his head on his shoulders and kept doing the right things when he really, really needed to dig deep. He's always had my back whenever I called, and same vice versa. But the relationship is good. Like I said, he's a good family man, good businessman. Believes in his moral values and good military background, family military as well. So he's a good guy, and that's why I decided that. I know his story is very good. It's very deep. So I figured it'd be the best bet to come here and kind of express it.
Well, I really appreciate it. So before we continue, Stephanie, why don't you go on ahead and tell people about One Hope Wines and what exactly you do?
Yeah, sure. My name is Stephanie Simoes. Hi, Michael. I cannot wait for this show today. I got a little glimpse of the pre-show, and I'm excited for this. I'm a cause entrepreneur with One Hope Wine. I work with nonprofit organizations and people year-round to assist with fundraising. We are a cause-centered winery out of Napa Valley with over $9.7 million donated to date. So what I do is I specialize in fundraising, gifting, private wine events, and wine delivery. And when you pour a glass of wine or send someone a gift, it's a great feeling to know that bottle made an impact for a nonprofit that's really important to you. I'm also the co-founder of PNS Properties. We're a family-run business that's working to curb the homelessness crisis in our veteran communities. Michael will have to talk offline about this, but I heard your story and I got an idea. We work with HUD-VASH recipients on housing, and we are working to build veteran communities and housing while providing support and resources. So this mission with Footprints Forward is really important to me because the last few years working in the nonprofit space, I've learned a lot about where our systems are lacking in support. And I believe that education and resources for those that are needing assistance is really important to help bring the number of losses in the other direction. I wear a lot of hats. Feel free to connect with me through my Linktree right there, /Steph Simoes on the screen. And all the ways to connect with me on socials are right there on that page.
For the next couple of weeks, she might be a little difficult to get a hold of, but she's going to try to answer as much as she can. So if she doesn't, just hop right out. Just remember, she might be having a kid. So Be patient.
Little bit of patience. We're gonna have a newborn pretty soon.
So, hey, there's a couple things that we failed to mention last week, and it was just kind of weird because I was so excited to announce it to you guys that this was happening. But we are now, our show is now being run every Tuesday in a loop on BeInspiredRadio.net. This is a religious format, a religious radio station that is run by Chicky Hot, who is and I don't know exactly what this means, but she is a rock psychic. But she, it's part of I've met her through my work in the paranormal field and doing all that stuff. So, but she runs a religious, spiritual radio station. And when I told her what we were doing, she said, you know what? I'm going to give you guys Tuesday. And so this show will be added to the loop. But the cool thing is we start out as week 1 on Tuesday morning, and it goes through to today's show, and then it'll loop it again so you can catch them all again. And this is really cool, and I really appreciate everything with BeInspiredRadio.net for doing this. I also want to give a shout out to Jeremy, who finally got back into his homeland of Indiana after his bowling tour and everything. But he was our guest a couple of weeks ago, and just inviting. We're growing, and this is exciting. And I want to thank everyone who's watching us on Things Network and appreciate everything that you guys are doing out there. And I look forward to talking to you guys all. But once again, Chicky, thank you so much for helping us to help others, because that's what this is all about. So, Michael, it's time, my friend. Time for your grilling, buddy. So, I was nice to you the other day, not no more. Whatever. No, you guys, we did do a pre-show interview with yourself and Tyreek, and it was the three of us. And I thought, you know what, I really liked what we accomplished on this, and I really liked the synergy that we had. You and Ty have such a special friendship that, we've all got special friends, but I mean, you guys really went through many ups and downs, but I love how you credit Ty with a lot of the great things that have happened in your life. Can you tell us how you first met Ty? How Tyreek became a pillar in your life?
Yes. Well, first of all, good morning. Michael Denson. Thank you so much for having me on this podcast this morning.
You bet, brother.
I appreciate all the the internal, external support around this organization that you built. Like Ty mentioned before, I met him in 2009. I was newly into the military. I just came in 2008, so I was fresh into the military and into my first deployment. And when I got to my deployment, I really didn't have anybody. I didn't deploy with the team. I literally came to Iraq from my base by myself, so I didn't have a unit that I was with. So I really had to kind of step outside of myself and make friends, make people that I would connect with during my deployment that would carry me through. And I met Ty actually playing basketball one day, and when we were out there playing basketball, he had asked me, as he was recruiting for the drill team, if I wanted to do drill in March. And I was like, nah, that's really not my thing. I barely made it through basic training. I was able to do enough marching there, but really not good to, be on the drill team. I would want to, but I don't think I'm coordinated enough to, swing the rifle and do all the things that's required as far as the drill movements. And he was like, well, just come on out and try it. We're having a day where, everyone can just come out and try. And if you like it, you can stay. And if not, stay anyway. So through that relationship, through drill team, I began to learn just the character of Tyreek and who he was by the things he had done for me. It got to a point where I actually wanted to quit. I felt like other individuals on the team were a lot better than me, a lot more smooth, like I was holding them up in our movements as we were rehearsing. So I told Ty that I was just going to kind of step away and not come back to the next practice. And then he said, here's what I'll do before you decide to do that. How about we do a one-on-one practice, just me and you. I'll run you through several movements and I'll get you up to speed. We'll do this tomorrow. So the day came, I ran into him in the chow hall and I was like, man, I really don't think I'm going to make it. You know, don't waste your time. You know, you can show up, but I won't be there. And he said, well, let's do this. I'm showing up and I expect you to be there. So I'll see you later on this evening. So he really didn't give me an option to cut out on him. So I did show up. It was just an awesome experience for him to just be my mentor in that moment where I needed it the most. That eventually led to me being a member of the drill team, and his hope and faith and mentorship in me led me to the opportunity to actually lead the team in a memorial ceremony where I got to honor one of our fallen by placing the M16 in the Soldiers Memorial. So it just goes to show you, when someone believes in you and sees something in you that you may not see in yourself, that can go a long way to be a fruitful opportunity. And it was for me, just due to that encouragement that he had in me in that time where I needed it.
I love the story that you were telling me about, you know, you've mentioned that you were wanting to quit before, but even the first time that Tyreek stepped up and said, work with me. And he did what he does, his coaching. He stepped up to you and he goes, you know what? Give me a chance, work with me. And all the way up until he busted you right before the meeting and you were like, yeah, I think I'm going to be there. And he kind of told you, no, there's no thinking, you're going to be there. Having somebody that accountable, Michael, you know, now in business, having somebody to kind of push those buttons that aren't always the easiest. What has that done for you with Ty?
Well, it really translates to life, because we've revisited this type of scenario probably about a handful of times, maybe 3 or 4 times actually, where, you know, I wanted to quit. Me and Ty experienced a lot when we were deployed. Ty was the first one to experience, you know, divorce in a deployed location, which is not an easy feat at all, to continue fighting for your country when your family's falling apart. But he was able to keep himself together, and I was able to walk through that with him. And then my time came, and I was going through my divorce, and it was really hard for me because I had lost, you know, custody of my children, the ability to be able to see them and be dad, something that I had always known to be. And Ty really stepped up once again in that position to encourage me and walk me through that, to say, hey, I've walked this road before. You will get through this. It will be rocky. There may be points of darkness, but I'm here for you. If you ever need someone to talk to, I'm here. I can help you through that. I've been through the court system with my daughter, so I can navigate you through a lot of those things and those challenges that you may think you have to face alone, but you don't have to. So once again, Ty was there to lift me up, to encourage me, to navigate through some of those uncharted waters of just fear and lack of understanding. And I really appreciate that. A lot of those moments and those talks were life-saving. There were times in those moments of darkness where I really wanted to give up and completely check out and just turn everything in. Like, Ty, you know, I'm not a dad. You know, I don't even see my kids. You know, I wasn't able to keep my marriage. You know, why am I still here? Why do I need to exist? And Ty just simply reminded me, those 2 boys that you have, those are the ones that you're fighting for. You have to continue to get through this. And one of the things he had suggested to me was to go get help, to talk to somebody outside of himself. So he did refer me to go speak to someone. And I was kind of reluctant, because a lot of veterans, when it comes to the VA, you know, we want to reach out and kind of put our story on the table, but it's really hard to translate that to someone who may not have served or endured exactly what we've gone through or understand how we're feeling. But Ty, in those moments, he had the answers, and I took his advice once again. And like I was sharing earlier in the pre-show, Ty doesn't realize that a lot of the things he spoke unto me and how he guided me through that process not only saved my life, but saved my family. And I can speak on that a little bit later if you need me to, Zach.
That was honestly one of the more beautiful moments that, you know, when you were able to look at Ty, and this was one of the first times that you were able to look at him and tell him, look, you don't know what you've meant. And I really did, man. I took that to heart because it's, look, telling people, I'm sorry, guys, my dogs, he is just telling me, if you don't let me out, I am going to make a mess. So I've got to go and let this guy out. Yeah, Stephanie, can you go on ahead and take over the show for a second so I can go and let my buddy here out, or he's going
Absolutely.
to make life a living hell.
It's your dog. It's my 3-year-old. You know, we make do with the potty time, right? One thing that was mentioned in the pre-show was, you know, having that net of people that you can cast out to, and that's something that, like, you know, I remember from re-listening to that. You know, the fact that you guys have such an honest relationship and no sugarcoating, and he's like, hey man, I walked this road. Here's what you're going to do, you know, and help guide you through that. It just shows, you know, the bond that you guys have. And I don't know, I'm just really excited to hear more on all of this today. So I don't want to do too much talking, but I was telling Zach earlier that pre-show should have been streamed live, because that was just amazing. I didn't need to be here for this. This was great. Hey, Zach, you're back. Awesome.
I can run fast for a fat guy sometimes, but it's actually really not really running. You know, when you get to be as large as I am, you start to lean over, and it's called momentum. You know, you need to hit the door.
Going, right.
So, but yeah, I like, and I love the fact that Stephanie was able to watch the show that we did, and hopefully, I've sent a couple of emails to people who I guess I didn't do a good enough job getting linked to them. Hopefully, we're going to have some more people joining us here real quick. But Ty, I warned you that this question was coming, and Michael, I'd also like your opinion on this. You two, and here's our great friend, Mr. Dennis Schrader. So Dennis, welcome to the show. That don't look like your car, brother.
It's not. Things happen differently when you actually show up.
I did take pain pills this morning. I thought maybe I was looking.
No, they said it's going to be a couple of days to take care of the issue, so they gave me a loaner car, and I was able to make it back here. So
real quick
to join
before
you.
I finish the question, how was your wife, Dennis? I know that you couldn't join us last week.
Oh, she's okay. It's just, you know, as we get older, you get stuff that are aches and pains, and it's something that was not urgent, but you know, you just can't let it go on forever. So
yeah, those aches and pains end up being aches and pains, and that's just not a lot of fun. But welcome to the show, my friend, and we'll give you your introduction here in a minute. I'd like you to meet Michael, and if you remember Tyreek was our second guest. He was right after you.
Good to meet both of you. I was able to listen to the LinkedIn broadcast until I was able to get the link for this show. So
yeah. So but Ty, let's start with you first. You guys have this special bond. You guys are able to talk to each other quite a bit. What about listening? How much of it is talking, and how much of it is simply listening to each other?
I think for the most part, I don't really know if you could factor in like a percentage wise or anything like that, because it's pretty much based off scenario, I would say. So pretty much like if I was to call Mike or Mike was to call me, that's what the other person's doing to start. So until the other one's finished. So like when they're done talking, then we say our piece. And I think that's a main goal in how it grew. So how it grew so far and strong, because we were able to listen, you know, and that's what it is. That's what it comes down to. I'm not saying it started out that way, but, you know, it got to that point to where we know now, like, you know, You call, you got an issue, I'm going to listen and I'm going to give my feedback, and then we're going to go from there. So I don't know if we can actually put a number on it, but the fact of that you're doing it in its complete entirety, that's the main part of it.
And Michael, are you in full agreement of that, or is it easier, or could you put a number on like how much is talk, how much is listen?
Well, one thing I can say is there has been 100% consistency with the availability on both of our parts for one another. I know when people are reaching out and needing help, sometimes people are not available. I don't think there's been one time in our entire almost 15-year friendship that, 14 years that we were not reachable. So being able to reach one another allowed us to lean. I think it's really been 50-50. Although I give Ty a lot of credit for helping me out, getting me up to speed and up to strength. Ty has leaned on me as well. So in those moments where I wasn't the one needing help or guidance, I was providing that same encouragement and motivation right back to him that he had gave to me to help him through some of the challenges and the times that he faced after separating the military. So I think it's really a give and take type of approach. If you want to be heard, then there has to be an opportunity for you to be in listening mode to be able to help others as well. You can't just be the one speaking all the time.
We're gonna actually kind of ruin the ending for a lot of people right here, Michael. But I think that this is really important because you've already mentioned your children. You've already mentioned the problems with the marriage and everything. You worked through that, and now you are back together with your wife, correct?
Yes.
And you have custody of all of your children.
Correct.
What was it about having someone as strong as Ty? And you've already mentioned that he said you need to seek help. But when he first said that, what was the first thing that came to your mind? And then was it kind of like, well, who the hell do you think you are telling me what I need to do and not, or was it like, yeah, you're right, I do?
Well, first of all, it really speaks to the power of friendship. A lot of veterans drive themselves into a corner. Some veterans will, seek out, alcohol or certain behaviors or antics to really hide and mask what they're going through, not understanding how to navigate through the challenges of the court system, or with the spouse who's being, non-compliant, or an ex-spouse who's not allowing you to see the children. These are things that Ty was actually able to experience and overcome. So I really looked to him as someone who understood exactly what I was going through because he had firsthand experience. So although I would call to him and complain to him and say, hey, our situation's not the same. You don't know what I'm going through. You didn't lose your two sons. You didn't go months and months and years without seeing them. And he said, Mike, listen to me. I may not have gone through exactly what you've gone through, but I'm on the other side of it. So if you want to get through this darkness, to walk through this tunnel and end up on the other side, you have to trust me that this will work out. It may take time, but one thing you have to do is not give up. You don't have to listen to me, but if you listen to me, I assure you, you'll get through this. I know it's hard. I know it hurts. I know it sucks, but you cannot give up. And those very words allowed me to charge hard, to not give up. And as Zach said, I was able to rekindle a broken marriage and remarry my wife. I was able to not only get the marriage back, but we had 2 more children and have 1 in the oven. The boys, it took about 6 years in court fighting and losing and not having time with them, to where in 2020 I actually got full custody of them. And so Ty was a huge advocate in that space. He was the one telling me, what to do and what to say, how to respond, how to be cool, calm, and collected. And I really looked at his relationship with his daughter and his daughter's mom, and I kind of envied that. I was like, how are you able to see your daughter? How are you able to communicate with your ex-spouse? And he said, with time and maturity. You have to go high when they go low, but put your focus on your children, and they will see that, and that will be rewarded. And that's exactly what happened. So I'm really, really grateful that he had that experience in that space to guide me.
And Ty, you were able to go through this because when we were talking and you were at the lowest of lows, you were talking about, you know what, I don't want to let down my daughter.
Right.
So when you were talking to Michael at this point, is that where you were coming from there? It's like, you know, yeah. And is that kind of where that was driven from? Is that, you know, look, you can't quit because these kids need you. You might not, I don't know, explain that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's where it comes from. Outside of that one moment that I had, I've never in my mind thought about not being there for my child or vice versa. And she will always know that. And that's what kind of driven me. Like, I have family that gave up on me, you know, parents that gave up on me, so to speak. They wasn't there. So, you know, and one thing I realized when I got old enough was that will never happen with me. Or at least I'm going to try my hardest to maintain what I need to maintain. So that was definitely driven from that. And that's what I was able to do, because when you make it about your kids, which is what it should be about, it gives you a sense of strength that you never even knew you had. You got to dig deep in a place where you didn't know that you really can dig deep to. So when it's about them, which it is, because your well-being is good enough for them, that's where we got to go. So that was definitely driven from there.
Okay. Well, Dennis, I don't want to scare you or anything and, you know, or bring you into this, but there's something that I think you and I need to watch out for. Tyreek and his lady just had a baby. We know that Stephanie is about ready to have a baby, and now Michael's going to have a baby. You know,
don't drink the water, guys.
Yeah, we better stay there. We better stay the hell away from the water, brother, because if not, we're in trouble.
I and my wife have aged out of that issue, but I do have 5 adult children who have produced 14 grandchildren thus far, so that there is a great possibility in that regard.
Yeah, we did just recently find out that I'm going to become a grandfather again with my daughter, so we're excited about that. Dennis, real quick, so Michael and Ty can hear about your experience and what you're doing. Please tell us, just give them a little bit of information about the Price of Freedom, please.
Sure. Well, first of all, I'm retired Army officer, spent 24 years in uniform. I started 4 years ago a nonprofit organization called the Price of Freedom Foundation. It is dedicated to telling the complete life stories of our comrades who died while in military service to our nation, regardless of cause. So everybody thinks about combat-related deaths, but they give very little attention, sadly, to things like traffic accidents or somebody getting sick and dying. And my belief is that the life that they lived, their family, and their battle buddies, their friends, deserve more than that. And so we produce full biographies. Our first one is published and out. It's Alfonso Abdel Amos' story, a Navy man who died, lost at sea after 18 and a half years of service. And we're helping a handful of other Gold Star families at the moment. And that's what we're about.
Nice.
Tell us about your the first story that you've got. You guys just released your first story.
Right. So Alfonso was born in the Philippines. He served some time in the Philippine Army prior to joining the U.S. Navy at the behest of his father, who wanted to basically have his son have a better life than he had. A few years into his Navy service, he met his wife while he was in the Philippines. They had 3 children, and he was a machinist mate, served primarily on aircraft carriers in the 80s and 90s. And on October of 1998, he was lost at sea on an overnight watch. The last person to see him was his best friend in the Navy. When his watch was over and they did their roll call in the morning, people assumed that he was at his workstation. About an hour later, they sent out an alarm throughout the ship. Nobody could find him. and seas were rough. There was a tropical storm in the area. They were sailing between South Korea and Japan. And of course, hours and hours and hours had passed. So they did a 3-day search, could not find his body. And there's mystery regarding what actually happened with him. So did he accidentally go overboard? That's very possible. A little less likely than on some of the smaller ships, but there were 12-foot seas, and decks were wet. Was it because of his Filipino background? Every single person that we spoke with and interviewed for the book, including a number of his friends who were fellow sailors, had said that they each and all experienced a racial bias and harassment from other sailors. Not all of them, but a few, and all it would take was one to have had a beef with him and to help him overboard. Or did he step overboard on his own? 11 years prior, he had one suicide attempt, and the Navy had seen him, take him to their medical facilities, returned him to duty about 2 or 3 months later. We sought out and obtained and reviewed those medical records, and they were shockingly sparse. So we didn't really have a clue as to what was going on. But we called the book Silent Soul because nobody, not his wife, not his best friends, nobody ever heard him talk about what was going on inside. He kept everything silent. And so that's why it's still a mystery today. The book is out there. We had a great writer, Keith. I'm blanking on the last name right now, but Keith was our author, former Air Force Academy grad, spent his active duty times as a criminal investigator for the Air Force. So he brought that investigator's mindset to it, and he had written 2 prior books that were published, a nonfiction book on language learning skills, and a science fiction book, I think it was. And I think did a fabulous job of sorting through everything that we compiled on Alfonso's story and wrote a compelling tale here. So that is true and honoring of him. That's what we pledge to do for every person we so honor.
Nice.
Wow. I still love what you're doing. And Michael, we're going to get back to you real quick. But Tyreek, we're also going to be talking a little bit about your nonprofits as well, because I think that this is really cool. You guys both took this friendship, this mentorship and support system. And Michael, you mentioned the other day that, you guys took the strength that you gave each other and you guys went outside of the military and you guys took it as far as it can go. You went into the world of business. Tell people a little bit about what you guys do. And I'm going to pop a question up on the screen. Please tell me what this means. You're on mute, brother.
I think that's a great question. It's a question that came up in our pre-show, but it's the heart and soul of the business I started. The staffing agency, WGMD Staffing Solutions, gives veterans transitioning military, their spouses and dependents, an opportunity to get meaningful employment. And I think one of the biggest challenges our nation is facing with veterans transitioning or with military transitioning and becoming veterans and looking for work is many companies do not understand the value of a veteran. If they understood the value of a veteran and were able to answer this question, a lot more of our veterans would have work, would not be without work, month after month, some of them year after year. To answer this question, I understand the value of a veteran because I am one. I've navigated the challenges of trying to find employment, being turned down job after job, being promised interviews and not hearing anything back. But the true value of a veteran is not just in the service that we lend to our country. The value is that we were once civilians. We took our lives in our hands and trusted it with our United States government to defend our nation with no skills, with no prior experience, and were put to the task to learn our job and do our job in a spirit of excellence the entire time we're in the uniform. And that value, you can't get anywhere else. That training, you can't get anywhere else. And a veteran is not just a normal person from society. It's someone that has left society, who has been formed into a mindset to serve and to defend and to take on a certain set of skills to do what they're asked to do every single day, every single minute, every single second without failure. That's really the value that veterans bring to the table, is that when we're asked to do something, we're going to do it, and do it not only to our best, but do it until it's completely done, with the satisfaction of what we're being asked to do, with accomplishing the mission we're set out to do, to the point of failure, but going past that. Several Marines are trained to almost drown themselves to the point where they can not be breathing, but have enough wherewithal to take one more deep breath, awaken themselves, and continue to swim. So we are trained to do a lot of things that normal individuals are not. And once our country and organizations and companies can see that we have value, not only in those skills, but in the humanity of us serving others, I think we'll be taken more seriously in the job market.
When you came up with this question, when you approach a business and you go, do you understand the value of a veteran? What are the responses they get? I know that I know that when you brought this question up last week when we were doing our pre-show, I was like, instantly, can I put this up on the screen? I love this because I had told you guys that one of the things that we had brought up a couple times is how a veteran can't get a job because they don't have quote unquote experience working on something. Yet these kids get over there and they, in the palm of their hands, they have multi-millions of dollars of, equipment that these people with experience, they wouldn't know what the hell they were doing. So I know that that's frustrating because, after you guys go and you guys serve the country, the last thing in the world we should tell you, well, you need to go get a college education or you can't work on this stuff. What do people say to you when you ask them, do you understand the value of a veteran?
Well, you get a lot of head scratches, right? You get
imagine
the common cliche, of course we understand what our veterans do. We honor them and we appreciate, their service to their country and what they did for us. But it kind of stops there. They show more of we appreciate our veterans and we support our veterans. And then my question to them is how? Veterans are applying to jobs and not getting an interview. We failed our veterans. They should at least be able to get an interview. But even past that, not getting an answer on if they got a job or not is a complete disservice to our veterans, because it doesn't even let us know where we stand. It leaves us completely in the dark to then be left with our skills and our abilities to say, hey, what's my worth? That's really the question. Understanding the value shows the veteran their worth. And the ones that we're fighting for, if no one is fighting for us when we come home, then how can we call ourselves Americans? How can we say we're truly helping veterans when in most cases we're not? And I think it's not the intention of companies not to understand the value of veterans. It's something that veterans, we have to continue to drive home and continue to bring that conversation to the table. You said it the other day, Zach, I'm not, a solo organization. I can't do it alone. There's several hundred organizations out there trying to get veterans jobs, but we have to continue to have that conversation at the forefront to push our value, to show it to those that may not know what we do and what we stand for and what we're capable of.
Yeah. Dennis, I could tell you're excited about something. Do you have something that you
Well,
wanted to ask?
well, yeah. I mean, basically, what Michael was saying, I experienced when I first retired from the Army 20 some years ago, and so I'm greatly in favor of that message and continuing to press that forward. And I just remember, I went through periods of time unemployed for a couple of years actually, as you described, and we have lots of things that are out there for our soldiers, and a lot of people assume that officers have the free ride and get the easy pathway to employment. That didn't happen in my case. And I remember having, in terms of feedback, I mean, it's something that I wish that people would have. Instead, you get the terse little letter of rejection, whether it was for an application or after an interview. I wound up with a file at one time about yay thick, and I'm not going to use the term that I really called it, but it was FU file is what I called it, FU Dennis file, and I really had to fight for a long time to keep my own sense of self-worth, because I was still in that mindset that I wrestled with for decades, that was self-destructive and led to suicidal ideation from time to time. And so that was certainly a factor that I had to struggle with through that. So I'm very much in support of what you're doing.
Thanks.
Stephanie?
And this might be a little bit off topic, but what he was saying, in my kids' elementary school here, in their brick and mortar school, they're out of that school now, but there was a gentleman that was hired there for security. All the things that are going on in the schools, you guys. Yeah. It's scary. Mm-hmm. From one year to the next, with my kids going through this elementary school, they had the front desk person answering the phones right out front through those double doors. They ended up moving that person inside, away from like where you can see them through the glass, and brought security in. This gentleman, I used to volunteer a lot at the kids' school during the day. His wife actually was one of the volunteers with me, and I would leave my kids, drop them off, and just knowing this gentleman who served, and he's retired now, but got a job with the school district. I was so comfortable leaving my kids there, even with the chaos going on in the world. And I know Michael touched on this a little bit the other day when you guys were speaking, but, he said to me, I'd be running in the other direction, right towards the person if somebody were to come and compromise this building, and I was just so grateful to have that and to have that service person there, knowing, and I'm only a couple of minutes away, but still just knowing that, that I was leaving everything in his hands, and those are my babies, you guys all have kids. I was super grateful for that. So hearing you guys talk through the employment issues and stuff bothers me a little bit, especially with what's going on in the world, man. If they want to be over at the kids' schools and stuff, protecting these kids, I feel like every school needs to be, hiring and looking for that. I was lucky enough to build a relationship with him and his wife just through my time there and volunteering. So that kind of brought up those memories as you guys were speaking. And it's been a couple of years, but.
Michael and Tyreek, we were speaking about that the other day, about I was telling you guys when I was watching the news after one of the latest shootings in Texas, about how it was a former Marine, if there's such a thing as a former Marine. God love him. My cousin's probably sitting there going, "It's not former, you're always a Marine." But how he was talking about how, his training allowed him to try to help people that were injured. And, that's an invaluable training that, I could take all the CPR classes I want, but I'm not going to be ready for that situation as much as a veteran is, are they? Am I?
Probably not. You know, we're all trained to protect and defend. I mean, at all costs. I mean, from a building to a gate, any type of facility, any veteran can defend themselves and get people to safety on a highway, on a common road. I mean, any scenario that you can think of that would really stress and press someone to not know what to do. We've been put in those scenarios, and that's just what we raised our hand to do. Those are skills that we inherited by inserting ourselves into the uniform. But it's a true blessing because you never know when something is going to happen. And as I mentioned to Zach, most of the time when you're looking at the news and these tragedies are happening, I find it amazing that there's always some type of veteran from some type of uniform service present to help and assist those who need help in those tragic moments. And that's what we're here for. And organizations should welcome the sense of belonging of veterans because we understand that cohesiveness and camaraderie required on the job, but also that life-saving type of skill. Even in conversation, there's several employees and organizations that commit suicide and walk off the job with certain feelings and return to the job doing certain things just because they don't have that support net of people to talk to. But veterans were able to see those signs and recognize those and bring a lot of value in just understanding that people matter.
Tyreek, what is your thoughts to the question? Do you understand the value of a veteran? What does that mean to you?
I'm kind of in agreement of, what was just said. And I was thinking, like, sometimes when you're having conversations, throughout the time that I've been back, conversations about people, about veterans and things like that, of how they kind of were perceived that as well. For me, like, it becomes more of a family connected thing to me, and more than just skills and assets of that space. For me, like, when I hear another veteran, I immediately think this is another family member of mine, and so, and the value is unmeasured because you don't understand, like Mike was just saying, the length that people will go to, like it's unimaginable, things that I saw some military personnel do, you know what I mean, had me scratch my head. I'm just like, that man had it, like they really had it, like even if you look into special forces and stuff like that, like they do things that the normal military personnel won't do. So, like, the value to me is unmeasured at any given standpoint, so it should never be taken for granted in any shape or form. So, just us being able to just to connect and be able to enlist and go do that when everybody else doesn't want to me says a lot more within itself.
Tyreek, can you tell us a little bit about Chef for Vets, please?
Yeah, sure. So I started Chef for Vets. Cooking is my passion. And I do have a little barbecue food business that we do. And I wanted to connect the two that way and be able to go out and feed homeless veterans. At the time that I started this, I was just doing a little bit of research, and at the time it was 50,000 homeless veterans that they knew about. So, there's a lot more than what the numbers that they actually put out there because there's numbers that they don't account for. So I just felt like that number was way too high in any regards. And like I said, I knew that there were, like the Wounded Warrior program, they were out there. Like there's definitely big ones out there that actually help out veterans. But, the people up there in Power 2 as well was also got caught stealing and stuff like that from the foundation and misusing money. And I just didn't sit well with me. So I said, in order for me to do it, I'm going to have to do it myself. So I know that I'm truly reaching what I need to reach and do what I need to do, without having to have that black shaded area with it. So that is Chef for Vets. And typically around Thanksgiving time, we're going to be going out and trying to feed as much homeless veterans as we can.
Top Tier Sports Group.
So Top Tier Sports Group is started back in 2020. We're basically helping, the less unfortunate kids that can't really get the training and everything that they need to do. We build an experience for them to travel and be able to, showcase their skills that way and build camaraderie as a team. We had kids back when they were 10, 11 years old. Now they're, going into high school. They're still contacting us. We're still training them. That's what we're training today, actually, if the rain kind of stays off our back a little bit. So it's definitely a good thing. And not to mention, we're going to be going at some point revisit this, but Mike is going to be the point for the Arizona charter of Top Tier Sports Group over there. We touched base on this a while back, and we're going to revisit that whole avenue because we wanted to be able to help out wherever we can, and just continue that mission. So that's the whole brand for Top Tier Sports Group.
Yeah, I have no reservations to say that you two have such a wonderful friendship. And the other day when we did the interview, and even again today, I look at you two and I can tell how important you guys are. And I think that, everything that you guys are doing can really, really help other people. And Stephanie, I'm going to ask you real quick. I want to bring this up. Can you tell us what we are looking at with our little friend here?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So if you're not following us on the Community Pay It Forward One Hope fundraising page on Facebook, you can access it really easily through my link tree that was shared earlier. But we actually have an open fundraiser for both Chef for Vets and for Top Tier Sports Group this month. You just open up the camera on your phone, hold it up to the QR code. The top one is for Chef for Vets. The bottom is for Top Tier Sports Group. Every single bottle of wine that is purchased or gifted this month goes right back and donates back to these awesome organizations that Tyreek is working on. I did have a question, though. So Tyreek mentioned, kind of expansion, right, of Top Tier Sports Group and moving to different locations where it's needed. But I think the staffing agency has future plans of that also, right? Of expanding out of your local area. I'd love to hear more about what the future plans are and how you want to outreach outside of where are you located right now, Michael?
So we're located in the state of Arizona. So we actually have really big plans. We're in the works of proprietary software, actually an app that's going to be released. We're still working on the prototype of the app, but we want this application to be accessible to all transitioning military veterans, spouses, and dependents to really facilitate connecting veteran communities with employers that are serious about hiring veterans. We want to kind of get away from sending veterans to a link, giving veterans hopefuls and actually giving them a clear pathway to employment. So this app is going to streamline all that. So with that in mind, this will create opportunities for veterans outside of the state of Arizona and all 50 states to have access to companies that are going to give them an opportunity. So we've been working on that really, really hard these last 2 years and hope to bring that to market this year. So that's our plans for growth is this app that we're developing.
I love that. Is it like to focus on the certain career types that they're looking for and job skills, or, what are like the main questions that kind of helps direct them to where they should be going with that? Would you mind walking us through just to understand it a little bit better?
Yeah. So number one, we're only going to take on companies that have a vested interest in hiring transitioning military veterans and spouses. If they don't have it in their organization to actually take on these individuals, because that's our focus, then those clients will not even be invited to be on our platform. Essentially, what we want to do is eliminate the rounds of questioning and really get to the skills and the value that the veteran brings to the table, so that they can just be offered an interview and then be made a job offer right there on the spot. The app creates that dedicated space for that. It also gives companies kind of laser focus on these individuals without having to look for veterans through the needle in a haystack. If a veteran's applying for a job with college grads, with other individuals in the industry and a handful of other individuals, it's really hard to look through that haystack and say, okay, well, there's a veteran at the very bottom. What happens when you send a veteran to a job link? Usually we end up at the bottom. So this gives us an even playing field for companies to say, okay, I want to hire veterans for these positions. Okay, I'm just going to look at veterans. I want to hire spouses for these positions. I'm going to look at spouses, and hey, we could use some part-timers. Can we pull from these dependents that understand mission first? And I think that's what's so special about the community that we're serving is they understand mission. They understand a sense of belonging. They understand how to chip in and do their part. And I would assume that there's hundreds of companies that would welcome that type of person into the organization, but just don't know they exist. And we stand to show that they exist.
That one other thing that we were talking about before is that, I can't understand why, a veteran would be moved to the bottom of any list. I've said it before, I'm a patriot. I am not a veteran. I don't understand that, and your focus, which is really, really important that we haven't talked about, is making sure that a veteran is going to a job that they want, a job that, it's not, you're not looking to put them in a job that they can settle with, right?
Yeah, we want to get away from the bridge to another opportunity. We really want to partner them and align them with careers. We want veterans to understand that the companies has their back from day one. We want the companies from day one to say, hey, we want this individual to be a part of our team, so the veterans aren't having gaps in employment or just not getting employment altogether. And if you're just going to send a veteran to a Home Depot, not to undercast those positions, or just send a veteran to, work at a restaurant or work in retail, our skills are a lot more broader than those opportunities that are, a lot of them are available. But veterans need to be, they need to be aligned with things that match their skills so that they can actually apply those in industry, which a lot of organizations have jobs that veterans can do. We just don't know that those jobs are available. So we're bringing those jobs to the veterans and also allowing the companies to know that we're there and we can do the work.
Okay, Michael. And Dennis, did you have anything to ask before?
No, I really don't. I love the idea. I have all sorts of other, I guess, questions, but I know we're out of time. Maybe, Michael, you and I can connect up later, because I just, I love what you're doing. And hopefully we can help spread the word and you get a great success through that effort.
Thank you.
Well, Michael, let me ask you this, okay? Before we finish up the show here, if somebody's having problems, what is the biggest message you can send somebody who's having a problem?
Number one, admit that there's a problem. Don't be in denial. It's okay to look yourself in the mirror and say, I'm not strong today. I'm weak. I need help. I need someone to talk to. And then once you're able to, tackle that and face that, you have to go get help. It's something that we all need, not something that, the strong military member, woman, or male really likes to admit, because we're all taught to be strong, really tough, to have this thing called military bearing. But when you leave the military, a lot of that begins to unravel, and you have to get to the truth of the matter that you need help, that you can be talked to, that people do care. I think that's another big thing, is understanding that people care. A lot of times we carry the weight of issues and things that we have in our mind through our past experience that we think people don't care about or won't be able to associate with. But getting past that and understanding that getting help is the best thing you can do for your life and those around you is the biggest thing I would say, is, recognize that there is help that's needed, and then go get it.
Ty? Uh-oh.
110%. First admitting that, there is an issue, and then, finding out, finding a good support system. So having a good support system is strong, regardless of who it may be, a friend, a family member, a counsel, and then getting the actual help that you need, and staying positive. I know it's kind of hard or it's easier said than done, but it can definitely be done, especially, in a time where we could always find something to actually keep your mind and focus, on the good and narrow. So to me, those steps are 100% correct. I would say a support system, and then actually executing, that help for yourself. Because finding that self-love is kind of what helps it out, and, you don't kind of go down the wrong path.
Gentlemen, this is the one time I can honestly say that I really, really, really wish that this show was longer than an hour, because everything that we've heard is so positive. And, you both, and we've talked about this, you both have overcome some really, really hard times, and you guys are doing something with it that I think can be very inspirational to people. And Michael, I should have asked you this before the show started, but how do people get a hold of you if they would like to learn a little bit more about your programs?
So we are on Instagram and Facebook, WGMD _ vets for Instagram. And then on Facebook, it's WGMD Staffing Solutions. We also have a website, which is www.wgmdssjobs.com. Those are areas where people can reach out and get more information about our company and how we can help. We're still in the startup stage, so there's a lot of things to come this year that we're still trying to iron out, because we want to put our best foot forward and give our veterans our best. And I'm really excited about it.
Brother, we're here however we can be. Tyreek, how do people get a hold of you?
Same thing. So for Top Tier Sports Group, we also have social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, the email toptiersportsgroup@hotmail.com. For Shepherd Vets, we're revamping all of that. So they can just contact me direct email. It's RICKROBINSON. So that's Rick Robinson 2010@hotmail.com. And we'll be able to take it from there.
All right. Sounds good. And please remember that Rick will be joining us next Wednesday, a week from this Wednesday, on the halfway mark of the Community Pay It Forward One Hope Wine celebration. So here comes the fun part of our day. Stephanie, what have you learned?
You need a wide net of a support system. And man, these two got it. That's what I learned.
Yep. And Dennis, and I know that you came in a little bit late, but I mean, what's one thing that really got to you today?
Well, I love the fact these guys had each other's backs from from that day one, and continues past your time in service. And I'm fortunate that I have a couple of buddies that I could say the same of.
Well, and for me, it's very simply, do you understand the value of a veteran? I think that question is so eye-opening. And I agree with Michael 100% that there's a lot of people who are going to sit there and say, we support our vets, rah, rah, rah. But is that, lip speak, or do you actually really, are you going to get out there and you're going to do something about it? And that's something that, I call people out and say, hey, let's make sure that they're held accountable. If you're going to say that you support, let's make sure that we support. Okay. So, again, Michael, thank you very much. All the best of luck. I hope that we get to talk to you real soon. Tyreek, I know that we're going to be talking to you very, very soon.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, just again, you guys were wonderful, and I really do appreciate you guys coming on.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
All right. We'll talk to you guys soon. Dennis and Stephanie, thank you so very much for joining us, as always, and thank you for watching Footprints Forward. Please remember, Footprints Forward, our mission is providing resources and sharing stories to support the mental health and suicide prevention in a forward direction. It's what this is all about. We're not out here for self-promotion. This is out here to get the stories across of these two gentlemen that were just with us. Dennis was our first guest, and now he's a permanent part of what we do. These are stories that not every story is going to be successful. Okay? It's an unfortunate fact, but it's a fact. But the more stories of success that we put out there, the closer we're going to come to success. So from the entire family, everybody who works to put this together, my name is Zach Clayton with Community Pay It Forward, and we will be talking to you next week. We're going to be bringing you some more stories, more people, and hopefully more success. So we'll see you next week on Footprints Forward.